Okay, go for it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are just past 4 o'clock and we have quorum. So I'll call this meeting of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee to order. And we'll go around and do introduction of committee members. I'll start. My name is George Tolumsis. I'm the planning board representative to the committee. I'm the vice chair of the committee, and per delegation of the chair, I am facilitating the meeting.
I'm Hannah Rexhoffen. I'm chair and member at large.
Bram Marinas, appointed but not sworn in.
Nancy Hazard, at large.
Sarah Brown, City Council designee.
We'll go up to Jonah on the big screen.
Jonah Keene, member at large and at large in the room.
I'm Amy Kaling. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director, and I am the Planning and Development designee.
Francoise Hatt, and I'm a member at large.
Very good. Thank you. And so next on our agenda is approval of the April meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, I move that we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a,
Second.
thank you. And is there any comment on the minutes? I have a couple of minor things. One is under item number 4, under the second paragraph down or third, under where it says plan, next Thursday's planning board meeting. Do you see that, Amy?
Give me 30 seconds. Sorry, I didn't think to
Sure.
have the old minutes open. Okay, I'm with you. Item 4,
Yeah.
plan at next Thursday's planning
Planning board
board.
meeting, it should be natural, comma, historical, comma, cultural resources chapter. And then at the end of that sentence, it should be goals, priorities, strategies, period, not et cetera.
Got it.
And then at the very end, have a hanging sentence or participle or whatever. So at the very under next meeting date and topics, it says, then an email with a request for agenda items.
Oh, I corrected that on this. I must have done this.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's all I got. Any other comments, discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of the slightly amended minutes? Aye. Tony, you okay with that? Minutes?
I abstain. I was not there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, that's fast. Next agenda item is master plan updates from the planning board discussion regarding adopting the revised chapter of the master plan. At the last planning board meeting, there was an initial substantive discussion of the natural, historic, and cultural chapter. It was just a start to dive into that. That is going to be continued, and it's going to continue to dive in. It's obviously, a dense and complex document, and we're going to continue on that chapter next time. So more to be continued. There's not, there were no, there was some discussion of maybe changing some of the language in some of those components, but there was nothing voted on. So no changes were made at this point. So it's just continued discussion and dialogue about it. So nothing changed. And I know, Jonah, you had asked me a bit about it for the open space, and I apologize for not getting back to you, but it hasn't really progressed in any substantive way. So
Yeah, we had some of our folks that are participating but are not in this team. We're just curious about other ways that if there are other ways to be involved or contribute, if there's going to be like a public meeting on it, or if it's just in the planning board's hands now.
Gotcha. At this point, I think it's just an internal process with the planning board, and then we'll be broadening it out at some point.
Okay.
And probably with this committee's involvement as well.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Unless there are any questions about that process, that's kind of the general update. Yes.
Off the top of your head, do you know what the date is of the next planning board meeting?
First Thursday in,
First and second, first and third, right?
it's not, it used to be. We're only meeting on the first generally.
Oh, you're only meeting once a month?
Yes.
Okay. So first Thursday. Thank you.
Yes, I think it's the 5th.
Mhm.
It is?
The first Thursdays.
Okay, thank you.
About the planning board.
Okay, thanks. So next is the related thing, the potential update of the economic development chapter. And that was update from Amy on grant application for funds to update the economic development chapter of the master plan and review of a draft letter for support.
Which, thanks to George's reminder, I now have copies.
Thank you very much.
It's in your email inboxes. It's 2 pages. The update is that we are applying, as I think most people know, for a one-stop grant, a one-stop community planning grant. Those grants are due June 4th. So we have the grant drafted. We have letters from UMass and from the Architectural Foundation folks that came up to visit. And what I am bringing to you tonight is an ask for a letter of support from Sustainable Greenfield. I recognize that I said that I would do this and then it left my brain until this morning. So you've had not very long to look at it. So I'm happy to just chat about the content of the letter. And then because it's due June 4th, I don't know if it's possible for folks, if you're not comfortable voting tonight, to somehow do it via email. Maybe we can talk about that, judging by George's face, perhaps not. So maybe we'll just plow through it tonight.
Gentleman, the Attorney General.
Got it. Okay. I don't know if it's easiest for me to just read this and folks listen, or if anyone has comments, or how would you like me to do this?
Anyone have a preference?
Well, either we need time to read it or you can read it. I guess those are my two.
And it may be that you decide that we just can't approve this tonight, and I will.
I'm hoping we
I
can.
mean,
approve it.
I feel like we know.
Can too, but
Yeah, we talked about it.
why don't I read it?
You read
Oh,
it.
How's
great.
that?
I'll
And
read
then
along.
it'll be, so the public who are listening can
Great.
also hear the
That's
letter,
true.
because it's not included with the agenda. It says, it's addressed to Secretary Ed Augustus, who's the Secretary of the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, which is the state department that oversees the community planning grants. The Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee is pleased to support the City of Greenfield's community planning proposal to update the economic development chapter of the city's 2014 Sustainable Greenfield Master Plan, including an addendum that will update a 2018 quarter plan focused on the Deerfield Street neighborhood. Since the master plan was adopted in 2014, the city has worked diligently to tackle its economic development goals, from marketing Greenfield as a cultural, tourism, and recreation destination to strengthening downtown Greenfield as a vibrant, mixed-use urban space. We have been thrilled to watch as new environmentally friendly buildings have been built and/or rehabilitated, including a new fire station and public library, the rehabilitation and reopening of a long vacant commercial building at 270 Main Street, now a thriving childcare and performing arts education facility, and the advancement of several multi-story housing developments within the downtown neighborhood. Over the same period, the city has seen significant changes to its economy. The impacts of COVID and shifts in consumer spending habits, combined with an aging population, are reflected in the stories of struggling local businesses. These changes also bring new opportunities, including an influx of remote workers, a host of new housing developments underway, and advanced manufacturing businesses looking to expand. The impacts and opportunities now present in Greenfield need to be tackled with new priorities and plans that are aligned with current reality. SGIC believes that the city's proposal, and in particular the partnership with the University of Massachusetts Center for Resilient Metro Regions, is a critical next step for the city of Greenfield as we look to continue the economic growth that we have recently experienced. The city needs new economic development strategies that will build on the successes of the past decade, acknowledge the changing economic environment we now face, and identify actionable steps to address continued revitalization efforts that will not just support, but shape a sustainable, environmentally focused, and economically vibrant future. We are particularly pleased to see a proposal that has a significant amount of community engagement, both internally with city staff and committees, as well as opportunities for stakeholders, organizations, businesses, and residents alike to offer input. We also appreciate the inclusion of a focus on the Deerfield Street corridor. As the gateway to downtown Greenfield, this area's revitalization will benefit the entire city. It has great potential with a mix of commercial and residential properties and access to the beautiful Green River, and we look forward to working with the community to uplift it in our economic development planning. We believe this thoughtful proposal and unique collaborative partnership aligns with our vision for progressive, sustainable, forward-looking planning. We are fortunate to have this opportunity to re-envision economic development and look forward to working closely with the city and the broader community through this planning process. We hope you will join us in enthusiastically supporting this funding request.
Right, so well, Hannah.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's, yes. Love it.
So missions, problems, George has this highlighter out, which I appreciate.
So have we seen the proposal?
Right, that was my only question. We have,
Wow, look at you coming in hot with the good question. You have not seen, well, you have not, have you not seen the proposal from UMass?
I'm not,
I have
I
that.
don't remember seeing it. I remember meeting with them. I remember just.
No, you haven't.
Didn't you share it with us? Am I thinking of something else?
I don't think so.
I thought it was just my memory.
Something else?
No, I know, I believe, no. Oh, God.
Maybe you can sum it up.
No, but we talked
Right.
about it. We talked about it, though. I remember talking about it.
Details.
How much?
Because, no, we talked about it because this was the proposal that was, it came in higher than you thought it would.
Yep. I don't want to, I want to do it justice and do it the right way, and I hate to, let me just pull it up, and if I feel like I can share it appropriately, I will, otherwise. I can't believe I didn't share this with you. This is going to be so much. Let me read this to you. Here's their scope of work, and I'm not going to read every single word in the interest of not taking 45 minutes. Kickoff community engagement process with a 3-day intense strategic planning process to deeply engage the community and a broad cross representation of stakeholders. We would use that process to develop a strategic plan that builds on community principles, past planning, and our analysis. That strategic planning process will open with economic development visioning and scoping. Economic development visioning and scoping the full planning effort. This allows participants to see their involvement immediately represented and entice them to stay involved with the process. That strategic plan, subject to stakeholder comments, would guide the full economic development element and appendix. The strategic planning element would be in partnership with AIA Architects Foundation, Communities by Design. We anticipate 10 months for the planning process from contract signing to final plan delivery. Their action items, they would kick off with a meeting with my department, this board, FERCog, and any other relevant folks. And they would develop a website that they would use for project updates, opportunities for comment, and signups for emailed project updates. They have a period of time to analyze existing plans. They have outreach materials that they would prepare for public and stakeholder forums. They would rely on us to do the distribution of those to email lists, posting, that sort of thing. They would prepare asset and opportunity maps and demographic and market assessments. Then they would engage the forums that we've talked about with the outside folks coming in, outside multidisciplinary team of subject matter experts as a kickoff to initial strategic planning and scoping. That's the meeting where all good ideas are to be considered. Then they would shift to focus groups that would target stakeholders underrepresented at public forums. In particular, they list Greenfield Business Association, schools, Greenfield Housing Authority, and the Chamber. They would release a draft of the Economic Development Strategic Plan. They would engage in community online survey. They would have a community board working group, which could include folks from this committee and from the planning board. Then they would have a public forum to test out their proposed strategic plan. Separate from that, there would be folks working on the Deerfield Street corridor, and that piece wouldn't really touch this. I mean, it could touch this committee as much as you wanted, but it could also be a separate process. The working group would work to revise that draft, and then there would be a public forum on the draft full plan. Following that public forum and any other changes needed, they would bring the final to this committee, to the planning board, and they would go to city council meetings.
And cost, how does that fit?
Cost is $110,000. That is divided as follows: 5,000, which are direct expenses. That's travel supplies, outreach materials, meetings, etc. $20,000, which is the travel and expenses for that outside group. The architects, their travel and overhead for the 3-day charrette and strategic planning process. And then $10,000, which is student support, including demographic research, mapping, supporting public meetings, outreach, report production. And then 75,000, which is their actual staff time. What they quoted the full cost for was 125. They are offering 15,000 in free discounted services, which is being pledged as a cash match for the project, which brings the total from 125 down to 110.
And it's, who's applying, UMass?
The city is
Oh,
applying.
the city, okay. So no overhead.
So the staff time is all UMass time and all the AIA stuff is, they're donating their time.
They're donating their time. It's just the travel costs
Travel
and any
Gotcha. Yep.
meeting expenses.
Okay.
Did you say travel and meeting is 20,000?
The line for 20 they have is communities by design for travel expenses and overhead for a 3-day charrette and strategic plan production. Staff time is donated by AIA as a match, and subject matter experts volunteer their time not included in the match.
Do the focus groups do people get paid to participate in the focus groups?
They do not per this budget as it's laid out.
And where is the idea of where the 10,000 would come from?
From the grant that I'm applying for.
And that's what this letter was about.
That is what this letter is
Cover
about, to bring it full circle. So
Cover
the
the
state of Massachusetts
Yeah.
is offering community planning grants specifically targeted at municipalities looking to do planning in areas of housing, economic development, zoning, whatever. And so we are looking for this to be paid 100% from
100%.
that grant, 100%.
One,
Yes, which is why this budget was definitely more than what I was expecting, by a fair bit. However, I also believe that, this is a pretty unique partnership. I think it would be a pretty valuable one. I love their deep community engagement. And I think if the state through this grant is willing to pay for that, I would love to see them compensated. So I'm okay with it.
I have one, did you want to?
Go ahead.
I have one style comment, one substance comment. On the top of the second page, it says, please see a proposal that has a significant amount of community engagement. It sounds like that already exists. It sounds like that I would say includes a significant amount of community engagement, that's the intention to have a community.
To see.
I'm sorry, say that again. I see the sentence you're talking about. I'm just trying to.
A proposal that has a significant amount of the community engagement. It sounds like the community is already engaged. They're not engaged yet. The proposal would include a significant amount.
So if I take out has and put includes?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yep, I
So
do.
that, rather than the community is already involved. And the substantive thing is, there's no mention of the Main Street redevelopment, which would seem relevant to tying this together.
I'm happy to mention that.
So, I mean, they wouldn't know about this at Boston. It seemed like that would
Yep.
be an additional factor. Make this relevant, I would think. Other, did you have some?
I was just gonna ask, and I know that in our master plan as it is now, economic development and housing and transportation are kind of broken out separately from one another, but they're so impactful of one another.
Mhm.
Through this process, do you know how, I mean, will they touch on and or can they really avoid touching on housing and transportation in this? Like, would we get any sort of data out of this process that might help us inform those other two? Not that we're rushing to update more chapters, but
I feel like they surely would have to talk about them
Yeah,
because I don't think you can talk about economic development without talking about housing or transportation.
yeah.
But I don't know that they would gather data. I feel like with our housing study and FERCog's housing study, I feel like we have a ton of housing data, so I'm also not exactly sure what new housing data they would uncover. But I 1,000% anticipate that both topics will come up a lot, and I hope they do.
Yeah, I hope they do too. Yeah, I was just curious if they had mentioned.
We talked about transportation at that meeting. I don't know, I'm sure housing must have come up in passing. but-
Yeah. Curious. Okay,
Thanks for pulling this together.
yes.
I'm sorry to
Great.
pull it together so late. I can't believe we're on May 22nd, but thank you for letting me take up more than my allotted 5 minutes.
Any other comments or questions
Yeah.
from committee members? Are we
I
ready?
would welcome a motion.
I was gonna say,
I'll make a motion
Leave
to
this
sign this
agenda.
letter.
Second.
okay. Guess we're ready to vote. All committee members in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous.
Thank you for all your work. on
Thank
this.
you all.
Yes,
Wonderful.
okay.
I just
Sounds
wanted
like we've
to,
got
Excuse me,
every
George.
proposal that,
Yes, Stephanie.
I was wondering, what did you exactly just vote on? The acceptance of what she read or?
Applying for the grant.
or the acceptance of the.
And the support letter.
Yeah, because I had a few questions and, but you already took the vote, so thanks.
Yep.
I just wanted to say that I'm going to be away during the fourth Thursday in June. So even though I'll be able to show up, I won't be able to. Sorry.
Okay, so our next agenda item is introducing Michael Prawl, who's the FRTA Deputy Administrator. He's here to present about FRTA programs. It's been a long time since Michael actually, I don't know if it was in 2012 or 2013, when you came to the Transportation Subcommittee of the, Nancy was there as well, of the
Remember these things, George.
yeah, the Transportation Subcommittee of the Master Plan Advisory Committee. And Michael did a presentation there to help us put together the transportation chapter. And it's been a long decade since then. So things have changed. And so it's great to have Michael here to give an update on how things have changed over the last 10 years. So welcome.
So thank you for having me back. I love talking about what I do, and I'm happy that people want to listen to me. So I will take up as much time as you all want in the room and virtually. So if I become long-winded, please just give me a signal and we'll move things along a little shorter, a little quicker.
And I would just jump in, Michael, and say, we don't need to have a presentation, then Q&A if you want to ask questions.
If people want to ask
Go ahead,
questions
yeah.
while it's on your mind, please feel free. I brought some materials to share. And certainly it looks like I have some extras that you can please feel free to give to other committee members that aren't here today. Just
Thank you.
what I wanted to do was just give a high level kind of FRTA. Sometimes I get excited, so if I get a little too into the ticky weeds, just let me know and we can just move on. And if you have questions, please interrupt me and I'm happy to answer questions. If you're looking for more details, please stop me and I can give you more details. But without really knowing what everybody cares about, and everybody has a different level, I just kind of wanted to go big and then see where you all wanted to take it. So without further ado, as George stated, I'm the Deputy Administrator with the Franklin Regional Transit Authority. I have the pleasure of working for them for just over 21 years now.
Whoa, so
So I have a little bit of history, which is why I tend to get excited. So I just made some notes to kind of keep myself focused a little bit. But just so that those of you that may or may not know, so we exist through the creation of RTAs with the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 161B. If you ever have trouble sleeping at night, please feel free to read it. And it will put you to sleep. But because of that, All the RTAs in Massachusetts were able to be created to provide public transportation services throughout the state. The Franklin Regional Transit Authority was created in 1978. So we are getting ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary in a couple more years. We do have 42 member towns. We stretch from obviously Franklin County, hence our name, but we do dip into, and many people don't realize this, Hampden, Hampshire County, as well as a few towns in Worcester County. We have a combined population of our service area is 102,000, almost 103,000 people, and we cover just shy of 1,200 square miles. So we're a big service area, and we're completely rural. So by definition, by federal definition, all of our service area is considered rural. FRTA, we sound big, we sound mean and tough in what we do. We're a very small operation. So FRTA, through the Mass General Law, does not operate any services that we have. We only are the administration. So our staff is extremely small. So there's only 3 administrative staff. There's the administrator, there's myself as the deputy administrator, and then we have a full-time bookkeeper. Outside of that, we have 2 call center customer service staff. We have 1 travel trainer that we recently brought in, and then we have 3 maintenance staff that take care of our facility. Everyone else that drives the bus for us, that runs our operations, are all through contracted services. And what we try to do is we try to put on an FRTA face, so the public looking at us will see FRTA everywhere you go. So all of our buses are branded FRTA, all of our documents are branded FRTA. And if you ask people if they work for FRTA, they smile politely and they say yes, but they really don't. We don't want to confuse people. So we work with several different contractors. The largest, we contract with a company called Transdev. They're a worldwide transportation management company. Their sub-corporation that works for us locally is called Franklin Transit Management. And we like to shorten everything to make it easy. We call them FTM. So if you've heard of FTM, that's just the sub-corp of who we contract with. They actually have about 50 employees in total, including drivers, dispatchers, our maintenance team, supervisors, managers, and the like. So compared to us, they're much bigger than we are. We also contract with 7 more councils on aging and other nonprofit and for-profit contractors to cover the rest of our service area. So Franklin Transit Management primarily operates in greater Franklin County, covering our fixed route services, our paratransit services and the like, and we'll get more into that as we go along. But some of the other organizations that we contract with is the Bernardston Council on Aging, which covers transportation for Bernardston Northfield, the Irving Council on Aging for the town of Irving, Hilltown Community Development Corporation, which has 11 towns in Hampshire and Hampden County, basically from Plainfield all the way down to Blandford. We have a partnership with Humes Transportation and the Southwick Council on Aging. They provide transportation for the town of Southwick, and we're slowly rolling them into also including Granville and Holland. If anybody's a fan of Connecticut, that's Connecticut. West of us is obviously New York, for us out in Western Massachusetts if you live in Boston.
So how come you go so far out of Franklin County?
That's a great question. So when we were created, before my time, thankfully, that's just how the map was drawn. So essentially, the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority, everybody's familiar with PVTA, big buses, Springfield, Northampton, Westfield. They have all the big cities. And then all of these smaller towns, they got lumped into us. So we take anybody. If you'll have us, we'll take you. We also contract with Shelburne COA, who does 9 towns in West County, Southampton Council on Aging, and Westhampton Council on Aging. So now to talk a little bit about our services. So the big ones that people are familiar with is what we call our fixed route services. So that's like our city buses. So in the packet that I gave out, we have a total of 7 bus routes that we operate regular fixed line run service, which means that we have a set schedule. The buses will run throughout the day. We operate now 7 days a week, but for a million years, it seems, we were only Monday through Friday. Starting in January of 2024, we were able to get some additional funding to pilot weekend service, so we're very excited about that. We have received a new grant, so we're going to be starting some new service later in the summer. It's going to be a new fixed route from Greenfield to North Adams, so we'll have connections with the Berkshires. We're very excited about that, as well as we're going to add additional service to our line run that goes from Greenfield to Northampton. So it's going to bring it up to actually hourly service, which is going to be very impactful for us.
Amazing.
So a lot of people ask about fares. We get asked about fares all the time. So since COVID, we have ceased collecting fares on all of our fixed routes. So we collect no fares. Get on the bus and go. If you guys are interested in fares before COVID, we can go down that rabbit hole. But the intention is, I'm hoping, our advisory board every year has a big discussion about fares, and every year they don't want to make a big step, so they make a little step and they defer fare collections for another year. But we're hoping that will be permanent. Regardless, because we've been not collecting fares for so long, our fare collection system is now antiquated. So we just literally took the fare boxes out of the bus.
Wow.
So if we do collect fares, we will have to do something very drastic, getting new equipment, new technologies and that type of thing. But we're hoping that we can continue down this path. It's been very impactful for our bus riders. It has reduced conflicts tremendously. Incidents and complaints have dropped since COVID dramatically. So we went through a very long exercise about 3 years ago now. I think it was 3 years ago. George has a better memory than all of us. We actually had to go through an exercise calculating and coming up with a cost for how much it costs for us to collect the fares that we collect. And the cost is actually more than what we actually collect. So financially, it doesn't make sense for us to collect money on the buses.
And has ridership increased because of that?
So the ridership has increased. We're a small staff, so it's hard to tell definitively why we've seen the increase. I don't have the increases in front of me, but I can tell you this fiscal year, we've been averaging about 13,000, a little over 13,000 trips per month. I would say roughly that would be about a 30% increase pre-COVID, give or take. I think
COVID and now,
correct.
That's what you're comparing.
So
1,000 people, not trips.
Trips per month. So we don't count individuals, but every time someone boards the bus, we count them as a trip.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So if 2 people
Great question.
board, that's
2 trips.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. See, good question. Did I answer your question? I got
Yeah,
sidetracked.
so
Yeah.
you don't have numbers, but.
So I believe.
But ridership has increased by
Yeah.
about 30%.
So I believe
since-
some of that
okay.
definitely has to do with not having to collect fares. I think there definitely is a correlation with that. I think also some of the things that we've done to improve our services, being able to add more services, definitely weekends was a big step in the right direction. And then we'll get into this very shortly, but I think adding additional services that complement our fixed route to give riders more choices. If you can take the fixed route to go one way and a different service to go the other way, it's a machine that keeps feeding itself.
Do you have a sense, a not, you know, I'm not looking for statistics, but just general feeling
Perfect.
of like how full the buses are running, and if you have empty buses, has that decreased the number of empty you know, that sort of thing?
So the word full is obviously subjective or empty.
Yeah.
So I don't have a definitive sense. I can tell you that we don't run empty buses.
Okay,
So if buses are empty, that means we're doing something wrong. So we would want to change and do something else. There are always cases in which bus drives by and you happen to look and that's the one time where it is empty. It could be deadheading, it could be doing a million different things at that moment. It could be the beginning of the route, the end of the route. It could be, we call it deadhead. Deadhead meaning we're not in service. We're going from the bus garage to the bus station, or the bus station to the bus garage. Yes,
There was a concert in.
I sometimes use internal words, so please, again, stop me. There could be, it could be a training bus out on the road, training new drivers, so it could be different things that you're seeing. But ideally, we would not want the bus to go around empty because that doesn't serve anybody. So if we see those things, then we would want to have the conversation to kind of.
and do you have a
Fix it.
sense of like how full they tend to be?
I
You know, you
don't,
have buses of
Yeah.
different sizes.
we do, I don't,
And being an energy person, there's like, you know, I always think about
yeah,
energy per person mile or something,
don't-
you know?
track that information.
Yep,
But I can tell you that the new fixed route software that we are using has the ability to display, I believe it's customer facing on our smartphone app. Either a number or a percentage of the bus being full when you're looking at it. I would assume, but I haven't yet looked deeply into it. There may be a report tied to that. But I don't know to answer your question.
so you're getting some new software, whatever.
So we have
which-
some
which
new
might enable
software.
you to
Yep,
do
we're
that.
rolling it out through our entire fleet. And we have one of our operations supervisors, a part of her job is dedicated to getting the software fully functional and
Mhm.
up and running. It's pulling most of our fleet, but not 100% yet. But enough for riders to rely on when they're seeing things, but in terms of collecting that level of data, not quite yet. But good question.
A really quick semantic question, because I want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying. Is it correct to say that on your fixed route, 7 days a week, the bus is free?
Free. Yep.
Free.
All of our fixed route services are free. Weekdays, weekends. Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
I did not know that. I will tell everyone.
Yep. Excellent. Aside from our fixed route services, we have what we call paratransit services and it's multi-layered like an onion. So we have what we call demand response, which most people know as senior transportation services. So that would be for people that qualify, would be either 60 or older, residents of nursing homes, or there's an interesting little niche that I don't deal with the eligibility criteria, but if you're a veteran with a disability rating of 70% or greater, you would qualify for this service, but please don't ask me what that means. That's my boss that handles all that stuff.
I know it always surprised me that just hitting 60, you automatically.
You
qualify.
automatically
I didn't
qualify.
know that.
And so what that is a curb to curb service, and we will bring you anywhere within our service area. So it varies depending on service provider and where you live. So if you live in Greenfield, you have our biggest service provider, so they have the biggest service area. So you have access, again, 7 days a week. You can travel anytime between 5:30 and 7:30, 5:30 AM, 7:30 PM, Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends, 9:30 to 5:30.
And what's like, how far in advance do you need to ask for it, or can you ask it right? And then how long would it take for you to get it, or which is
Another
the
excellent
general-
question. You brought your A game today. So we allow anyone that qualifies for our demand response program to be able to schedule up to 2 months in advance.
Okay,
Or you can schedule as soon as right now.
okay.
Not right now, because I believe our staff has gone home, but you can schedule real time. So if
Okay.
you woke up this morning and said, I really need to do something, go to the pharmacy, go to the grocery store, go to the hairdresser, see my friend, go out to lunch, you can call today and we'll schedule the ride. Obviously, we need to have availability, so as long as there's room on the bus, and we'll get into that in two more. We'll explain that a little bit
I'll
more.
hold that
Um,
question.
And they'll take you to a specific address or to a stop somewhere?
Oh, it's already.
So it's what we call curb to curb.
Okay.
So we won't go into your house, so it's not that level of service,
Yeah.
but yes, so if you want to go to shopping, grocery store, pharmacy, doctor's appointments, anything,
The garage where your car is, yeah.
we can bring you to the garage where your car is, absolutely.
And these are not free.
Holland.
We can't do well, you can't go to Tallinn from Greenfield. But soon, we will have a consortium with Southwick and Tallinn and Granville that will have its own distinct service area in Hampden County. So they would go to, so we look at what locations are in close proximity, and it's not an exact science, but we would want to know where the major medical providers are, your major shopping plazas and those types of things. So Greenfield, obviously Greenfield has all of those grocery stores, doctors' offices and those types of things. Southwick and Tallinn, they would go to Westfield or Agawam or Springfield.
So demand response is need-based and needs are demonstrated.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's
As
5:30
a
to
Greenfield
7:30?
person, if my doctor's appointment is out
Only
of town,
in the Greenfield
Yeah,
area.
I'm
it
talking.
is.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Did you say,
if my doctor's appointment is outside of Greenfield, how far?
So another layer of the onion.
before we get off this, sorry, did you say demand response is needs based? It's not. You can be 60.
No, but I'm saying if you're 60
Yeah.
and you feel like going to Tallinn for no good reason, you're not going to be
Hmm.
taking demand response. But if you have a doctor that happens to be in Tallinn and you don't have a car, then you could.
We have a different program for
Yeah.
that.
So I wanted to stay on demand response for a second. I want to, it's not free. I wanted to clarify that. It's cheap, but it's not free. It's inexpensive.
So right now,
Yep.
it is free.
Okay.
We received some additional funding through MassDOT last year. So as of November of 24 through October of 25, we had a year's worth of funding to
Okay.
make the demand response free, similar to what we did with the fixed route services.
It's not in the brochure, but
We didn't change it in the brochure because we weren't sure how long, but we like to give our clients a nice, happy little surprise when they call to say,
Nice.
guess what? You don't have to pay.
and there's also some group grocery trips, right?
And we do gross, yes. So we do have a separate contract with the Big Y and Stop and Shop grocery stores to be able to bring customers to their grocery stores on specific days. And this is beyond Greenfield. This applies to other towns as well. And they do reimburse us some of the cost of transportation for that.
Thanks, Brian. I just wanted to cover the demand response part. Thank you.
All
As
the
they
questions.
So moving on to a different part of the onion.
So the next level to address your questions is we have what's called the Med Ride program. And this started as a volunteer-based, specifically for demand response eligible clients, for long-distance medical transportation. It was a gap in our service that we knew people needed. And pre-COVID, people would volunteer all the time. So we'd have volunteers with their own vehicles and we would match the client with the volunteer and they'll bring you to your doctor's appointment and back. Now, we still do that. So the brochure is still accurate, but we're in the middle of morphing the program a little bit. So we found that it has been very difficult to retain volunteers and to recruit new volunteers. So what we've started doing is shifting a little bit to open up beyond volunteers to work again with our partners, our transportation partners. And we have acquired fully accessible minivans that we've started rolling out throughout our fleet to be able to use those to supplement our Med Ride program. So if you have a doctor's appointment, and what we consider long distance is anything out of county. So if you live in Franklin County and you need to go to a doctor's appointment outside of Franklin County, we would pair you up with the Med Ride program. So we would first look for a volunteer. We still have a small group of volunteers that are willing to do that. And if that doesn't work out, we have some of our partners, our transportation partners that have access to these minivans. So it does two things. It helps to ensure that the program keeps running. And now we have fully accessible vehicles. So whereas before with a volunteer, they use their own personal vehicle, which is not accessible. Now, if you do have mobility needs, we do have vehicles that can accommodate you. So it's kind of a twofold thing. So we're still shifting. This has been very new in the last couple of months, so we're still working out all the kinks. But that would get you to medical appointments.
So people who live in the hill towns and the little places also, so that you know, we've been focusing, you've been using the word Greenfield, but I assume.
Yes, so essentially what our MedRide program does is no matter where you live in our service area, we will bring you to a medical appointment outside of the county you live in. And that's geared towards, and we're trying to ramp that up now that we've, I think it was, last year we acquired 3 minivans, and then we just brought in 2 more. This past month, we're trying to get them online. So we're slowly rolling this out so we can have this.
It's amazing.
Ramped up.
And if one of the volunteers is available and the person they want to bring doesn't have a handicapped accessibility need, do they still ride in the volunteer's car? Or do you require the volunteers to now use your minivans?
We would use one of our other contractors, our partners, to provide that transportation.
So no longer are volunteers using their own cars.
They are, but we wouldn't require the volunteer to drive our van.
But you would-
But if the person has a
So
disability,
if we.
If they don't have a
Oh,
disability,
if they
If
don't.
we know in advance that they need an accessible vehicle, we would not call the volunteers. We would go directly to one of our transportation partners.
volunteers drive their own vehicles.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. And again, no, with these extra funds, just like the demand response program, the MedRide program, there's no costs for the riders, which has been, that has been the most impactful for people. Prior to these additional funds, we would charge 40 cents per mile, which, while it sounds reasonable, depending on the distance you're going, if you're going to Boston, it can be quite costly. But people still do find a way, make a way. So, so we're excited to be able to have these extra funds. So that's been very impactful. Having these additional vehicles has been impactful. The last part of the, so 2 more pieces to the paratransit onion. We have what's called the Americans with Disabilities Act. So because we receive federal funding, we are required to provide what's called ADA transportation services. It's complementary to our fixed route, which means it operates during the same hours and days as our fixed route does. And it is specifically for those that are unable to use our fixed route services due to their disability. It's a eligibility qualification process. You have to have your doctor sign off on a part of it to show that you are
And
eligible.
say again what you call that service?
The shorthand name, we call it ADA,
Okay,
Americans with Disabilities.
Okay.
It's complimentary complimentary paratransit service. But we call it ADA to keep it nice and short. And again, because the fixed route is free, there's no cost for any of the ADA riders. And then the last piece is our newest piece of the paratransit onion. We call it the Access Program. The best way I can describe it to people is the public transportation version of Uber or Lyft. It's a technology-driven, app-based transit program that utilizes our existing fleet of drivers and vehicles, and it maximizes the use of the empty seats on those vehicles to fill them with people from the general public. So if you don't qualify for ADA or for our demand response, and you can't ride our fixed route because it's too far for you to get to, this helps fill that gap again.
What is this called?
We call it the Access Program. So it's essentially, it's open to the general public, so anyone can use it. People love it because it is app-based and they can self-schedule. For those that can't or don't want to, you can still call our office and we can still help schedule rides for you in person. But by allowing people to self-schedule, we have not had to hire any additional staff to man for additional phone traffic. So we've essentially doubled our ridership with this program
Wow.
with only incrementally increasing costs. And the only reason for that was because this has become so popular, we've had the ability to add more drivers and more vehicles in to keep filling these needs. So there's lots of needs out there.
This app, the one that goes through Access as well?
Yep. Yep, that's the one.
Question, like, what kinds of addresses you all will pick up from? Like, does it need to be a home residence or it literally could be anywhere?
It literally can be anywhere. So for the access program, we have defined zones. And right now we have 4. We're working to roll out a 5th. And essentially you can travel anywhere within your zone, which is a grouping of towns. And we will allow you to travel one zone over. And what we did with this program, we started it in late 2019, just before the pandemic. We wanted to start very small to keep it controlled. We didn't want costs to get out of control. And so we've been taking these incremental approaches in making these changes. It started only during the week, then we expanded it to the weekend. We started adding more vehicles, more availability, and then we started making more zones as it goes. And there's still trips that we turn away because we cannot simply fill all of the needs.
So at any one moment, like how many vehicles will be out and about?
That's a good question. I don't have that offhand, but if I were to guess, I would say 6 or 7
Oh, okay.
at any given point in
okay.
time in the day.
It gives me an idea.
Yeah. Yep. So the access program is the only program that we continue to charge fares for. And that is in an effort to control the amount of transportation. We want people to continue using our fixed route. That's our bread and butter. Biggest vehicles go to the major destinations. So we want people to encourage that. But because we're small and rural, we don't have the luxury of offering bus service every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes, every 30 minutes. So all of our routes are, in town, they're an hour headway. So there's hour between each run. Routes that go out of town at best go every 2 hours. Some of them are even longer than that. So there's a convenience factor to using the access program, but there's also capacity issues. So we continue to charge for that, but we try to keep the fares to what we believe is reasonable. So within travel of one zone, we charge you $3 per one-way trip, and a second zone over, it's $4.
Compared to a taxi or an Uber.
And because there is no taxi service in Franklin County, there is limited and sporadic Uber and Lyft, but we know that it's expensive for people to take if they can even get them up here. So our point is to have people use the fixed route, but for those that can't, for any reason, to be able to have an option to using the access program, we want to make it affordable.
And you said there's no taxi service in Franklin County now? Is that what you
If
said?
there is, I'm not aware of it.
Because there used to be.
Yes, years ago. The closest that I'm aware of is out of Northampton and out of Amherst. And I know that they will come into Greenfield. I don't know what they charge, but just things I hear along the way. Same with Uber and Lyft. I know that they will come out of Northampton and Amherst to come into Greenfield, but I have heard that it's upwards of $40 one way. So obviously sometimes it's cost prohibitive for people that are without cars.
I see these things that say MJT on them.
Yeah, what's
So,
that?
so I'm only familiar with MGT because prior to the pandemic, another layer of our onion, which we no longer have, would have been what we call human service transportation. Or for the users, it would be PT1 transportation, prescription for transportation. It's transportation through the Medicaid program. And I'm familiar with MJT because they used to be one of our contractors for that program, which is now operated through Montechusett Regional Transit Authority out of Fitchburg. They do about 75% of the entire state. And that's only for Medicaid clients that have eligibility for transportation. A great question.
Yeah.
Seeing people buzzing around.
So I know you're hesitant to toot your own horn, Michael, but the access program is something FRTA pioneered.
Yes.
And my understanding is the other regional transit authorities around the state were impressed by it and started to be influenced.
Kudos.
Is that accurate?
It is so, for decades, you only had essentially two choices. You had your fixed route or your not fixed route, and we all called it something different. Basically, senior transportation or ADA's, transportation for people with disabilities. This really enabled us. The timing was very serendipitous. So the software that we were working with for our paratransit program approached us in early 2019 and said, we're looking to develop an app to go along with this software, which would enable people to self-schedule. And because we've been working with seniors and people with disabilities for so long, the older adult population really likes to use the telephone. So getting them to use an app, the majority of them won't. Some of them will, and they do with the Access program and love it. So what we tried to do was think outside of the box and said, well, we know that, talking about full and empty, we know that there are seats on all of our vans running throughout the day and they're empty. And there's only so many people that, we can put on a bus at any one time, going in any one direction. And we know there's only so many people that meet these qualifications for our demand response service. So we just wanted to try something. So we said, well, let's make it so that we can fill these existing empty seats without, with really minimizing any added costs. And it's really worked out very well for us. I've spoken to a number of other RTAs in state. I've spoken to other people in other states. I've spoken with other nonprofit organizations. The terminology people tend to use is like microtransit. So that's essentially what this is, called microtransit. So it's basically trying to fill that gap, and technology is really driving what this is. And for us, it's really helped people because we knew that there are people that don't meet our demand response qualifications, but if our fixed route service, if the timing doesn't meet you to get to work or to school or to whatever it is, or if the walk from your home is in excess of what you can get to or bike to, then essentially you're forced to have a car, which we know is very cost prohibitive. It's very expensive. And I'm not a planner, so I don't dare start touching onto demographics and those types of things, but working with the FERCog and others, we know we needed to do something, and we just tried it.
Kudos.
And it really just worked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
For your creativity.
Thank you.
So, again, I can't speak to the increase in transportation. I can give you some rough estimates. I can tell you today, we're averaging roughly 2,750 trips per month for our paratransit program,
Oh,
system-wide. So that's all of our ADA, all of our demand response, all of our MedRide access, everything for all of our 42 towns. Obviously, Franklin Transit Management in Franklin County is going to have the lion's share of that because that's where the largest population is, but
That was 750 trips per month?
2,750.
20.
And I would say roughly, I'm sorry, you had your.
No, please finish.
I would say roughly, I would say that's probably close to double what we would have provided pre-pandemic, pre-pandemic, pre-COVID.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in 5 years.
Jonah.
It's incredible, Michael. Thanks so much for sharing this. It's very encouraging to hear this progress. I have a question, but first, Garth in the chat has asked about the access program, if it's available just on an app or if you can access it through a phone call or another way.
Yep, you can do either one.
Either one. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So it's on app for both for any smart device through Apple or Android. Just search for FRTA and it'll come up. If you don't want to, you can always contact our office and we can help you get set up and we can help schedule transportation.
Great.
Good question.
And then the other thing, I was just I'm not as familiar with the master plan's transportation chapter, so I was just looking at it, and it looks like there's a couple that directly relate to your work. One, you're completely hitting out of the park with increasing access and expanded service over the last 10 years. Sounds like it's a dramatic increase, and the word is there will be a dramatic increase. So that seems like a tremendous success there. I'm curious about another area that we haven't talked about yet. One of our goals is to reduce emissions and fuel use and air pollution by vehicles, and just curious if there's been progress in that department for FRTA.
Yep, and we can certainly transition over to that. As part of our fleet, so most of our fleet is conventional regular gas internal combustion engines or diesel for some of our larger transit buses. But we have started moving into alternative propulsions, alternative fuels. Being small and rural, it's very hard to get funding. But we've really worked hard with partnering with MassDOT to just try to dip our toe in as much as possible. So what we do, which tends to give our operations and our maintenance people an ulcer, unfortunately, is I'm not opposed to just trying things. So if you look back even 15 or 20 years ago, we had two types of vehicles. We had a large transit, but like a city bus that you'd normally think of in your mind's eye, which would be diesel power. And then you'd have a smaller, for our paratransit services, smaller van. Generally speaking, would be 12 or 14 passenger, and that would be a gasoline vehicle. Since then, technology's advanced. New vendors have come into the market. So I love trying new things. And the rest of the world that works under me hates it. Because you're learning, if you're a driver and you have to learn how to drive 8 different types of vehicles at any given day, that can be frustrating. Or if you're a mechanic trying to fix 8 different types of vehicles, or even with different engine models and drivetrains, it can get complex. So we do have our traditional city transit buses, 30, 35 footers. Those are the big ones that we'll have on our fixed line runs. We have some we call them mini buses, so it'd be less than a 30-foot bus, generally what we call a body on chassis. It'd be like an 18 or 19 passenger. Primarily would be used for fixed routes on some of our smaller fixed route, but they also can be flexible to use on our paratransit services. And then we have all of our vans and minivans that strictly do demand response services. And that's really where the mix has been these last several years. So traditionally, we would have we called a conventional paratransit van. So looks like a minibus. You open the door and there's 3 or 4 steps to get up to the top where the driver's sitting, which would be where the fare box would have been. And then behind the driver, you'd have 10 or 12 or 14 seats, and that would have been the standard model 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. Since then, they've adopted a lot of different vehicles. People have been trying new things into the market. So what we've been doing these last few years, we've acquired some what we call low floor paratransit vehicles. So like a transit bus would have no step getting into it. It's a flat floor. You'd have a ramp that would flip out. So it's a flat floor. There's no stairs until you get to the back of the bus. And then you have 1 or 2 steps up over the rear axle. And that's what we've been using with some of our paratransit vans, smaller model, but no step to get in. It's made a huge impact particularly on our older adult population, not having to climb stairs to get in. Make it a lot easier for people. The
And
drivers
those
love it.
still run on gasoline. I know you have
They
some
do still run on
hybrids.
gasoline. Those ones specifically, so the problem is there's weight restrictions, so the DOT classifies vehicles, so anything that is 14 passengers or less that does not require a CDL license has to be less than, I believe it's 10,000 pounds. And when you have a vehicle that small with that many people, adding a heavy battery into there, so they haven't found the secret sauce to that yet, but I know people are working on it. Some of the other things we've been doing, we talked about minivans. So now we have the ability to acquire fully accessible minivans. When I say accessible, I mean they're suitable for wheelchairs for people to use. And then very recently, we started we acquired 3 fully electric Ford E-Transit vans, which are great because they're electric, but we took a step back because they're
Not accessible.
difficult steps to get into.
Mm.
So we're trying to balance and we're just trying new things to see how things work and getting feedback from the drivers and getting feedback from the riders so we know what direction to keep moving in. I will skip ahead because I know we're sustainable, so we want to talk about these things. So one of the things we're actually working on, we have a project now. We have a contract with Mass CEC, which is the Clean Energy Center. We'll go with that, Clean Energy Center, and a partnership with Mass DOT and their consultant. And what we're going to do is conduct some research and basically develop a roadmap for FRTA. And we're calling it an implementation plan to be able to look at transitioning our entire fleet to either electric or some other alternative propulsion system. And then in addition to that, we have funding to purchase 2 to 3, depending on the final costs, electric buses and charging equipment to be able to test these vehicles on our fixed route operations. So our 4 E-Transit vans that we just acquired, those are strictly because of the size, they're strictly for our paratransit program. And what we want to do is be able to start testing vehicles on our fixed routes. So we can get a good mix of both to see how they're working in our service area specifically. And part of this project, we're actually working with the FERCog, and they're going to be putting out a survey very soon to solicit feedback and input regarding the design and the implementation of this fleet transition. It's going to be targeted towards bus riders, but we'll certainly take feedback from other people. So I'm more than happy to share that survey with this committee, and please feel free to share it out beyond there. So we can get some feedback, and that will help kind of drive the consultant as they're coming up with this roadmap for us.
Thank you, Michael. I know we have to wrap up just because of time.
Yeah.
I remember when you shared with us at the committee, transit subcommittee, and we're though not in fact, conceptually, we thought of the FRTA as a public utility, though it's not part of town government. And I know that we talked about the partnership with the town, and in the master plan, one of the implementation steps was for the town to build a municipal parking garage to help with multimodal connection to trains and buses. And that's happened. And I wondered, as the last point, is there anything you can think of that the city could do to support public transit at this point?
Well, you really put me on the spot.
Just, you don't have to answer right now, but just throwing it out there. So.
Sure, you've thought about it.
I think I'm the one on the spot. Is this me?
I don't know. Nothing jumps out front of mind.
Is the app featured on our kiosk?
I don't know, but I do only because I wasn't involved in that process. We are very excited. Our operations supervisor actually had the idea, so I said, go forth and try it. I don't know who she contacted at the city and just asked, hey, can we get into your kiosk? And somebody said yes. So I know information is in there. I don't know specifically what is in there. But we could certainly entertain that. Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
very elegant little app.
Yeah. So, anything that the city can do to help promote us,
Okay.
obviously, we would love that.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically, yeah, I don't know, but go ahead,
I
questions.
just have one other question. It's kind of from a events and business standpoint. I was wondering if do you ever engage in the ability of a business or event to wrap buses, pay to wrap buses to advertise? And or, I know we've been in a little bit of a transportation challenge around like the fairgrounds to downtown for different events and things. Do you ever have, this might be a crazy question, do you ever have extra vehicles that if scheduled ahead of time could be rented by the city and or the fairgrounds and or an event producer to utilize on a sort of specific route for an event? Or no? No is totally acceptable answer. I have a long list of rental companies, but I'm just curious. This is a different hat.
I heard three questions and I'm just trying to remember them. So one of my many hats is advertising. It's the bane of my existence.
Sorry.
Because that's not what we do as the core. To answer your question, we would allow people to wrap an advertisement on our buses. I've never in the 20 years that I've been in charge of advertising had anybody come that close to actually wrapping one of our buses. It's
expensive.
cost prohibitive. It's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
I've even gone so far, and I would even offer this to anyone in the room. If you did want to, we wouldn't charge you to do it. It's already enough to wrap the bus, because I don't know what the cost of that is.
Mhm.
I can put you in touch with people that I know do it,
Mhm.
and you're free to do your own research. But if somebody wanted to, I think that would be a great way to kind of showcase what that looks like,
Yeah.
to show others, because no one's done it for us yet.
Okay.
Then you had
My,
two other questions. So, question number one, do we have extra buses? The short answer is no.
or vehicles.
The short answer is the vehicles. The short answer is no.
Okay.
Not that we can't. It takes a lot of planning and execution. So years and years and years and years and years ago, we were working with whatever the organization was running the Green River Fest.
Mhm.
And we would bring in, and of course, we didn't have weekend service at the time, which now makes it a little bit more complicated.
Mhm.
And we would bring in buses and we would bring people in, and they would shuttle people from an offsite lot to the festival and back and forth.
Precisely.
So we do have the ability to do that. No, you can't pay us to do it. That would go against our federal funding, so that's considered charter service, so we're not allowed to do that. So we would have to do it for free, which complicates it even more.
Yeah.
But it's not insurmountable.
Okay.
So we do something similar with the North Quabbin, the Garlic Fest in Orange every summer. So it's not insurmountable, but it becomes much more difficult now that we're operating both fixed route and paratransit on the weekends.
Understood.
Trying to find extra vehicles, it depends on how many you're talking. It depends on the amount of resources you're looking for, because we are, I say we. When I say we, I mean the greater we, because I
Yes.
consider all of our transportation partners part of our family. So we are still struggling to retain staff just to drive our normal transit services. So to have, and a lot of them are not able to work additional hours because they're already taking on additional shifts during the week.
Understood.
So if you have something specific, we could certainly talk offline
Okay.
to see if it's something we could do, but I can't make any promises.
Is it possible to make a donation to FRTA?
Right.
Of course. Or is that against the law? Against
As
your
as
federal
long
contract.
as it is not in direct relation to a particular service.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, you can make a donation, yes. As long as it's not overtly.
Gee, that was for the
County
county fair.
Thanks
Okay, yeah.
for the charter service. We don't, because we get so much federal funding, we're not able to, per federal regulations, we're not set up to compete with charter organizations like Cosmeskis and First Student and right now.
Thank you.
I do have questions.
Yeah, sorry,
I know we're
quick
trying to
final question?
wrap it up.
Yeah, quick follow-up.
Sorry, my
Yeah.
two hopefully quick-ish questions. One is, if someone would like to add a bus stop, is that possible? Like, for example, for an encampment where there are unhoused people, like, could a bus stop be added if there's lots of demand there? What would be the best way to demonstrate? If that's workable.
You're always asking, you guys are asking really great questions. I wish it was a short answer. The short answer I can say, call me and I'll put you in touch with our general manager. Technically speaking, our assistant general manager is in charge of overseeing bus stops and any implementation of new bus stops. But he is out on leave, so I forward all of that to our general manager. There is a process to go through it. And then depending on the owner of the property will depend on the level of complication of getting the stop set up, but it's not insurmountable. But if you think of an idea that this would be a great place to have a bus stop, just shoot me an email or give me a call. George has all of my contact information he can share with everybody and we can help.
And your second question?
Second question, which is just like, are we okay with, like, how's federal funding? Is that at risk, and fair share, the state surtax, like, just funding?
So I do many things. One of the things I don't do is drive the bus. You probably don't want to see that. And the other thing I don't do is bookkeeping. So from my perspective, I go until my boss tells me to stop. We're not in any imminent danger of losing any of our funding. There's no indication of that at our board meeting next week. There's no indication we won't be telling our board the sky is falling. All signs point to things are okay. They're not great, they're okay. They're okay. Everything's stable. We anticipate having enough funding to continue the services we have, the services we're planning to launch, continuing forward with all of our projects, new vehicles.
I'll just say, after years of hard advocacy, got the weekend service finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the
Very
difference
hard.
in the
Yeah.
last 10 years is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Simply amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you, thank
yeah.
you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael.
It's not without the support from the public, the support from all the cities and towns, from people like you with the committees. It's to have that positive support drives us to be able to show people, funders, to say, hey, we need this, let's go try it. And people are using it, which is fantastic.
Gonna move on to our next agenda item, but
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
Thank you.
Paul, thank you all.
Thank you.
If you think of anything else outside of this meeting, again, George and Hannah has all of my contact information. Please feel free to share it.
Excellent.
And we're always happy to talk transportation. So
We can tell that.
This is great. This is so great.
thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, Jolie, you are up. Sorry for the time squeeze, but go.
I'm happy. There's nothing urgent. I'm happy to cede my time and give the update next time if I guess depending on the public comment, if there is public comment or not.
Want me to go to that next and?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Stephanie had been here, but looks like it's gone.
Garth's here.
I understand, yeah. So Garth, did you have any public comment you wanted to make? Hey there.
Yeah, and perhaps the people have seen my various rants on Facebook. I see some Facebook friends there, and I've
Well, some of
contacted
us don't
the-
use Facebook, so assume the committee hasn't seen it. So,
yeah. Some people have, some people haven't. But I suggested to the ordinance committee and the city council that we look into a ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. Much like many other cities and towns around the country, and even in Massachusetts have done. Cambridge was the it seems like the best one they've put out there. Obviously these currently are two-stroke engines. So the statistic that gets thrown around for Consumer Reports is that the emissions of running a gas-powered leaf blower for 45 minutes is the same as driving a Ford, what is it, like F-150 FX Raptor for 1,000 miles. Which is pretty intense. So from the sustainability side, that's pretty tough. I'm also talking to the Board of Health around the sort of noise pollution, which is a real thing, both for human and other animals. And yeah, so I was sort of putting it out there to the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee to just, see if you'd be interested in sort of co-signing on that or drafting a letter of support to the city council. They're in the midst of kind of re-looking at the ordinances. Obviously it could possibly be a phased in thing. I assume there would be some sort of hearings. But if we're looking at, I originally tried to bring it up. The Board of Health was a little busy during COVID. But I was like, we're in the midst of like a respiratory pandemic and everybody's at home and like then trying to go outside and walk around in the woods. And there's a lot of people blowing, dust and feces and whatever up into the air while we're walking around, which certainly felt not possibly not as deadly as COVID, but certainly not an ideal thing for anybody, and certainly not for the workers. I've seen some of them wear earphones, some of them don't. I don't think I've seen any of them ever wear masks, but they're kind of in these clouds of whatever happens to be on the ground.
Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. I didn't get a chance to email you the Cambridge ordinance, but happy to do that if you wanted to take a look at that or
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Well, generally, when there's public comment, we generally don't get into a long discussion of it because it's not on the agenda substantively. But I would, and especially because you're saying you're bringing up another venue so that it might come down the pike. I'd be interested in putting on the agenda for our next meeting to have some, get some substantive materials and background to have a conversation about it. So
Great.
I see some thumbs up. So
Yeah.
thanks.
you're giving a thumbs up, Garth. Thank
Curious.
you. Why am I not surprised?
Happy to talk about it.
So interesting.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
All right. And you were saying, Jonah, you're okay. Nothing you want to bring up right now in a rush. You're just okay with
Nothing.
waiting until next time.
June meeting is fine for an update. Yep.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, it was nice to have Michael.
So interesting.
Great.
It's free. Did we all hear him say that? Why does everybody not know that?
I
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, you knew that.
It's in the paper, it's been in the paper.
I mean, I knew
But-
pieces of it were free. I think I just didn't realize the expanse of.
Yeah, well, I had forgotten even
Great.
the
Maybe
demand
you'd like to
response.
write a my turn about it.
Sorry, my turn's right. It's true.
Or
No,
maybe
that's
wrap
how all of his
one of the
expressions are also
buses.
transportation, like we have a ramp up to this. We
Yeah,
gotta keep this rolling.
yeah.
What was that, Jonah?
Right.
Trying
one
to
of
wrap the buses that say it's free.
Oh, I know. It's those kinds of things. It's like, yeah, I just.
Well, before Christian throws us out, no, I'm just kidding. Any announcements? Nancy?
I just want to report on the huge success at Miller's Meadow. We have planted about 300 trees. We're going to do one more planting to finish up the spring planting, which will be on the 31st of this month. And besides the trees, below the trees, when I say below, down the hill and going towards the river, there will be a 40-foot wide pollinator meadow. And half of that, I haven't seen it yet, but I saw a photograph that Chris Politan, who's putting that in, harrowed the land. It finally stopped raining enough for it to be dry enough. And so he's gonna be doing that, planting a cover crop and then spreading seed in the fall. So that's the goal on that one. And we also agreed that we're gonna, the part that's a hill, which was a big issue, like he couldn't do that, is we're going to, I think today we found the money to actually, in the grant, to cover it with a huge tarp. So it'd be 20 feet wide and 1,000 feet long. And we'll leave it tarped all summer and to try to kill everything that's there. And then in the fall, we will be, the royal we will be spreading the seeds. So the program is well on its way. So the other half of the trees we planted, first, if you go to you can actually see a few trees. If you're on Coleraine Street, there's a few trees that you can see above the fence.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, but if you go further and look down in there, you can see little flags and bundles of wood chips and some of the trees are pretty small. Some of them are okay.
Is there ever any plan to get rid of the blacktop there?
No, and that it has a lot to do, it seems highly unlikely because it has to do with not, well, I don't know. It has something to do with the FEMA money and not wanting to disturb the stuff. That sort of.
I wonder about that.
Yeah.
It just seems to encourage vehicles. Doesn't it?
It what?
Encourage vehicles,
Encourages vehicles.
doesn't it?
Well, probably.
I have a quick announcement, and then I think we
Yes,
might need
please.
to have a 30-second conversation about the next meeting date.
Oh.
My quick announcement is on June 3rd, the GBA and the city are partnering with Recycle Works, who is part of the Center for Ecotechnology, I believe, and they offer to businesses free support in making their businesses more sustainable. And so June 3rd, they'll be providing no-cost waste consultations to Greenfield businesses. They'll basically go in and look at how you handle your materials and recycling and tell you, offer suggestions and prepare a report in ways you could improve. And then they'll help you with training and signage and all sorts of good things.
Follow, like, could the schools get that or does that not count?
They have worked with at least one school in Greenfield. I want to say one of the elementary schools. So schools absolutely could. There are things about that are complicated, but yes.
And they are interested in doing it more. I think it's,
So the schools can sign up for this week if they're interested.
I'll send around an email with this. The schools certainly could, but my good guess is because it's a little more complicated, they would want to just come and do a separate special visit for the schools.
And meeting date, was that the pronoun?
Yes, June 26th, 2025 is our next meeting date. That night is also the take the floor pitch. And there's a meeting that both Hannah and I are going to be at beforehand with
So what, take the what?
take the floor. It's an entrepreneurship pitch
Thank you.
competition.
So you could still have the meeting, you'll be minus Hannah and me. Yes.
So we might not make quorum.
So quorum might be a challenge.
Somebody has to be moved. I know. Probably.
So do we have time? I don't know if we have time right now to decide that, do
Yeah, so maybe an email conversation about.
I
we
can
can-
email about it.
we? A scheduling we can do via email, so.
Great.
Because we probably have to ask people who aren't here,
Yes.
so.
Okay. All right. I will email about that.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second, all in favor?
Um,